Deputy Speaker, this Albanese Labor government talks about all the measures they're taking to ease the cost of living crisis, which is crippling Australian families. My focus is on the one-third of Australian families who happen to live in regional Australia, who always get the short end of the stick when Labor is in power, the forgotten Australians. Regional families are struggling to make ends meet. They can't afford to put food on the table, their energy bills are exploding out of control, and in my electorate of Mallee, people can't work because there is no childcare available. The Prime Minister's contempt for Australian families, doing it tough, was on full display for all to see yesterday when I asked him in question time what he could do for my constituent Brendan Reinheimer, a father of a young family whose electricity bill just went up by $970. What was his answer? The Prime Minister blamed the Coalition for voting against his energy relief bill in the Senate. I would remind the House the measure actually passed into legislation, but it actually hasn't made a dent of difference to Brendan's electricity bill. It has still gone up by $970. I suppose the Prime Minister would have the same contempt for Steve Cross and his family of 5 who have seen their electricity bill rise by a whopping $1,280. His promise of $275 relief on energy bills sounds like a bad joke, frankly, to the struggling families who are living in my electorate. The Labor government continues to grandstand day after day while families in regional Australia literally cannot afford to keep the lights on. It is obscene. And as the Leader of the Opposition and the Shadow Minister make clear, the Labor government's $5.4 billion childcare subsidy has been exposed as poor policy, as it is overlaid by skyrocketing fees and no relief for those who live in regional towns, especially in my electorate of Mallee, where there is no childcare. Good Start Early Learning operates 4 centres across Mallee and have increased their fees by nearly 8%, which they argue funds increased wages and increased operating costs. Nationwide, fees are rising in some cases by more than 15%, piling pressure on Australians during the Labor government's cost of living crisis. Families across Mallee have told me of their inability to access childcare, which renders any taxpayer-funded subsidy 100% useless. The dire situation of childcare deserts in Mallee, which has a flow-on effect for the workforce, which is experiencing severe shortages in sectors such as health, aged care and education. Labor's one-size-fits-all policy on the run approach has failed Mallee mums and dads. Billions of dollars in subsidies makes for a flashy Labor headline, but where was the mechanism to prevent that subsidy being eaten up by higher fees? And what is their answer to regional towns with no childcare at all? A subsidy is about as useful as a headless hammer if there are no childcare facilities or workforce in the first place. How are families in Mallee who can't work due to lack of childcare going to pay for the Prime Minister's renewable bonanza? What is Labor's answer to these skyrocketing energy prices that are sending families over the financial cliff? They'll just keep ramming through their ideological agenda to reach 82% renewables by 2030, whatever the cost to families and whatever the cost to regional communities. They must do better.